Hi, my name is John William Evelyn. I'm the creator of the Collage Atlas. I wrote, designed, developed, illustrated and composed the soundtrack. So this video is going to be split into kind of two parts. First of all, I'll show just some highlights of the game footage and give you a brief overview of what the game's kind of about, what I was trying to do with it. And then the second half of the video will be a more kind of direct, like just gameplay thing. There'll be a few kind of jump cuts to kind of keep it shorter, but it'll give you a little bit more of a clear idea as to how the game actually really plays. So I hope you like it. So before I delve into the game proper, I just want to kind of give an approximate overview of what the game's really about, thematically speaking. So ultimately, the game, it can be divisible into essentially kind of two parts. The first is concerned with reflection. It's an exploration of our internal world, the memories and concerns that shape that internal world, and the resulting burdens that come from that. These weights that we carry around within our minds and our hearts as well. And the second part of the game is actually encouraging an ascent out of that internal world. It's encouraging and urging people to reconnect and re-engage with the world beyond ourselves. Ultimately, reflection is only so useful. So I don't want the game to encourage introspection without action. I don't want to put forth an argument for just folding in on yourself. I want to urge people to engage, re-engage. So whilst, the game really does emphasize the sense that our thoughts, feelings, presence and gaze matter. These are fundamentally important. I don't want that to be at the cost of recognizing the value of the world beyond ourselves. We are no better nor more important than our surroundings. We and our surroundings are one and the same. The world doesn't begin and end at our fingertips. And I think actually a sense of distance, of disconnection, are the root of so many problems. So, and counter to that, familiarity and recognition of the interconnected nature of things, I think is the root of so many solutions, and I think is the root of hope, that we are of our environment as much as a song, can be said to be of the air, a product as much as it is one and the same thing. I think that recognizing that fact can lead to respect. It can maybe lead to a greater value and appreciation of the world, and ultimately, I hope, a more hopeful outlook. So much as the text in the game actually says this, I want people to come away with the sense that, we are not guests in this house, the house that is the world, but we are of clay as the bricks. We are an essential part, an essential ingredient, as much as anything else is. Okay, so it is the Collage Atlas, my entirely hand-drawn pen and ink adventure. So we begin the game having fallen, I guess, in many ways out of the sky, but to all intents and purposes, it's kind of falling into yourself. And this game essentially begins addressing the inner world that I kind of talked about in the intro. So everything you see here, all hand drawn. It took a very long time. It was very, very tiring. And so here is the boat as depicted in the intro for the game. And here is the titular book, the Collage Atlas, which we'll carry through our journey. And this serves two purposes. The first is that, as you've seen, the text that we just saw that said "Gather Yourself" is now stored in this book. So as we travel and find fragments of text, they will be collected in here. The other thing is, if I hop to the index you'll see there's actually quite a few chapters here. So these other chapters on reflection, resolve potential hope, to live a life, fragments and night flights, they're all basically optional chapters. So chapters 1, 2 and 3 at the top there, you'll actually fill those in just by progressing through the game. These other chapters though, you only fill those in by exploring off the beaten path. Okay, so we've closed the book and now the first, I guess, I don't want to call it a puzzle, but the first bit of text appears. And as we gaze at these letters, notes ping and they gather together. And it's a simple thing, but I mean, ultimately this is asserting one of the fundamental aspects of the game, which is that your gaze matters. So no button pushes, just looking upon things affects a change in this world. And the book pops up again to indicate that that's now being collected in the book that we carry with us. So on to the next one. I'll do this reasonably quickly just to kind of get things kind of going. And in this way we get to the kind of core sentiment of the first part of the game, that our presence is so fundamental that it actually in many ways kind of creates the world, in that it creates our experience of the world. And here, as we pass our gaze over the flowers, they each play little musical notes. You can spend some time playing with those, but we'll press on for now. So we follow these pinwheels, each one spinning as we gaze at them. And here we've collected this gate just by looking at it, and as we look around, it follows our line of sight. So no button pushes or anything like that, just look. The first of many build sequences in the game, again really hitting home that without the player, without your actions, this world won't actually come to life. I guess many games push the point that the game world exists with or without you being there, and that's magical in its own way. My game is actually very much about the fact that without you being there, without your engagement, the world won't be fully realized. So throughout the game, there are very clear indicators as to where the main path is, where you should kind of go to really progress. And so here we've got this big old beacon of light, and hopefully it's very clear that that's where you want to go. But if you take your time and deviate off the main path, you'll find lots of secrets around. So in this instance, just in the distance there, you can see a little orange butterfly. It should become clearer as we come closer. And you would also hear the drone. I don't know if that's going to be clear in the recording, but this drone starts to kind of increase in volume as your proximity to this, as you get nearer. And now these pinwheels pop up as we pass our gaze over them. And so there's a whole circle of them. So is there one left? And when you complete that, we found a secret and optional page for the Collage Atlas book. So that animation indicates that yes, there is a new page. So we'll just open the book up, and here is the first of many optional secret illustrations throughout the game. So to close that, so you can open the book at any point in the game, but for now we'll press on. And we're being invited now into the hub that will serve as the kind of pivotal place for the first half of the game. So the spaces increase in scope and in complexity the further into the game that you get. For me, it was really important that this section had a degree of intensity to it, a degree of kind of, I guess, unpleasantness, I guess. But I want it to be unsettling, because the game really is about light and dark. It's about contrast. So here we have these anchors and these chains weighing down this tree-like kind of air balloon thing, and that vessel kicks off basically the second half of the game eventually. Massive spoiler there, but there you go. So the first half, as I say, of the game is about reflection, and that will result in us ultimately untethering these chains, and then the second half of the game will be about the ascent back into the outer world. So we'll just gaze at these letters and they gather together. And there we have it. A key has spawned. And now when we look around, you'll see the key rotates. It subtly, I mean not that subtly, but it kind of tells you where it wants to go. So the key is pointing where it wants to go to. So we'll follow that over here. The first of 3 chains unlocked. The second 2 take a great deal more work. So I'll just show you a little bit of what's involved in untethering that second one. So I will skip through this bit to get to the next section in the interest of being as succinct as possible. And so that is the anchor, that's the kind of weight bearing down, holding that airship in place. So it's our job now to explore and ultimately untether that. There's also a couple of things here I want to draw attention to. So throughout this particular sub area, sometimes you'll see letters drifting around through the air. There's one just over there. It's been followed by some paper planes, and you can see maybe a grass trail following it. Now if we look at that, we've caused it to spin. If we can do that a couple more times, we can catch it. And these all have optional little kind of asides, kind of just individual little thoughts that don't necessarily fit into the overarching central narrative, but were nonetheless important to me. And you've no doubt spotted, of course, there's another orange butterfly over here, so we now know that means there is a hidden page. And you can also hear some drone playing. Hopefully you can hear some drone playing. So back to the main path, which is normally fairly clearly signposted. I've used the chains as a means of guiding the player as well. It's basically like a giant beacon in the sky. And also, these letters hopefully guide the player's gaze it's been a real challenge in a black and white world to make sure the players know where to go. I've done my best with lanterns, and lampposts are often a key signifier that you're on the right track. And this greenhouse here, this area, took me a ridiculous amount of time to make, because obviously, like everything else, it's all hand drawn, and all of the leaves are hand drawn. And yeah, I got carried away because I like plants and greenhouses, so it was always going to happen. Anyway, where did that lantern go? Here it is. Okay, so now we have the first anchor. You saw it fall from the sky earlier. We've now found where it landed, and it has 3 locks on it, and it's making a really nasty noise. I could have stood to make that nastier, I think, actually, but you know, hey. And if we look around, you can see glowing things. They are keys, so we're going to pursue one of these. And there goes the key. So this area, ultimately, I guess it's split into like 3 smaller little areas. Each one has differing mechanics. This area is actually kind of a fairly traditional like platforming sequence. You can see all the clouds are made of letters as well. And there is the jar containing the key that we're after. I mean, I don't want to over-explain things. You know, the game isn't tremendously subtle in its use of visual metaphor and whatnot. To be honest, you know, anchors and chains and, you know, this, you know, the huge quantity of letters that have been left unsent, these messages, these things that we don't say. The use of jars as a recurring motif, you know, and again, I think it would be, I think it's unnecessary to really go into what they represent to me, but they have all been used in such a way that I hope people can project onto them their own meaning to an extent, you know. And there is an overarching narrative trajectory, as I say, in terms of this progression from introspection to re-engaging with the world, but the moment-to-moment stuff, I've tried to write it in as broad terms as possible. I've tried to tackle universal themes in such a way that it's not a prescriptive narrative. It's one that you can project your own meaning onto. So some of the text might be slightly obtuse, and I appreciate that if some people don't feel a need for this game or feel the need to consider these things, they won't necessarily get a great deal out of it, and that's okay. So we finally caught up with the first key of the area. And away we fly. Shout out to Mario 64's castle intro on this bit, I guess. Though I didn't really think about it at the time. It turns out, I think subconsciously I must have been. Yeah, we're one Lakitu short of that being a full-on Mario 64 intro. Okay, so now we've got that key. The anchor is no longer making noise. It's singing. And that is Frankie Rose singing there. Brilliant vocalist, one of my favourite musicians. So we'll take the key over. And that's one down. So, you know, I encourage you to play and explore the rest of the game. There's a great deal more to be found. There's more distinctly themed areas. There's lots of different activities, and lots and lots of pages and secrets and stuff. Actually, case in point, I'll just show you this real quick. There's the matter of that up there, and there are ways to get that. Oh, and also that letter up in the sky there. There are ways to get to that too. So the game is full of these little secrets. I don't want to give them all away or how to find them, but you know, you can get up there as well. And there may or may not be a secret around these 3 butterflies here too. Okay, so I'll leave it there for now, but thank you for listening to me ramble, and I hope you enjoy the game.